Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today is abundance teacher and money coach, Jodielynn Craven.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And we've decided that this week we are going to have all good things happen because we've had plenty of things going on in our lives that aren't what we really had in mind. Usually good learning opportunities, but there are times when you just kind of need to stop the learning opportunities and feel good about life for a bit. So today we're going to just feel good about life. Sound good to you, Jodielynn? I mean, are you on the same page here? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I want to make sure, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a guest joining us. Her name is Yvonne Trost. And Yvonne, well, first of all, before we even got going, she was actually helping us get into a better frame of mind. That'll give you an idea of what kind of a person she is. Well, you're going to find that out pretty quickly. But Yvonne, first of all, welcome to the program. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I've already laughed more than I have in the past hour in the last 2 minutes. So we're doing well.
Isn't it? It's amazing how much we, first of all, appreciate that when it happens. And second of all, we really don't engage in it as much as we really could.
Yeah. Have you heard? There's now something called laughter yoga.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I have never heard of that.
Oh,
yeah.
It's very weird, actually, because you start laughing without having anything to laugh at. You just make yourself start to laugh. That's the weird part. But once you get going, it develops its own momentum. It's kind of it's fun when you get it going. It's just the first few minutes can be, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah, maybe that's a part of it. That's the catalyst. It's so awkward. You have to laugh.
It is very awkward. Yeah. Like, okay, laugh on cue. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. No, that's what it feels like.
Easy.
And you did. See, you laugh. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I can do that all day. Whenever I'm feeling a little down, I say I need a daily dose of Seinfeld. And so I'll just watch a Seinfeld rerun. So not quite laughter yoga, but pretty close.
Sure. I appreciate that. When I haven't actually done this in a while, but whenever I need to pick myself up in that same way, there is a video I have of Robin Williams on Inside the Actors Studio, in which for the first 7 or 8 minutes, he just went totally Robin 100%. And
I'll have to get
even though I've seen it probably 50 times, I laugh at it every single time. It's that kind of a deal. So I totally get where you're coming from. Yeah. And with Robin Williams, I mean, how could you not laugh at that? I mean, he was just insane. So, Yvonne, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Tell us about your story and how you got to doing what you're doing now.
Well, it's a fascinating journey, but I won't take the whole time to tell you about it. But
you can take half of it. That's all right.
Grew up in a small town, 2,300 people. I lived in town, but across the field, I'm not lying. There were cows and cornfields.
Okay.
Not anymore, but back then, I was on the edge of town. So I grew up pretty sheltered. My parents didn't have a lot, but they wanted me to have the best. So they pushed me into a space that they thought would be safe, right? Go to school for finance, make money. Then you got to get a house and you got to have kids and you got to, do the whole Facebook family thing before Facebook existed, right? But you still had the pressure. So like I told you earlier, I'm a recovering overachiever. I did that. And then it's like, wait a minute. This isn't my purpose. I'm not aligned. I don't feel right, but I kept doing it, right? Because what they taught me, I'm a good German small town farmer. We get it done and we just keep working.
Never give up. Yeah.
So I kept working until the universe told me, this is not right. You're not in control. It's not aligned to who you are. And I went through a pretty rocky divorce. And from that, one of my girlfriends was like, you got to come to yoga with me. I'm like, I don't want to go to yoga. There's no endorphins, there's no dopamine hit. Like I'm a runner spinner, kind of junkie. I went and it was the most difficult thing I've ever done. It was like a hot power vinyasa flow. And I thought, I'm going to do that again. And then it's like what they say, what you find on your mat happens off your mat. And so through yoga became meditation. Through meditation came manifestation. Then I got into neuroscience and quantum physics. And then I'm like, why am I IT business strategy consultant? I need to help people and I can't just focus on people's bottom lines, right? Within corporate America. So I manifested my way out of that. And now I'm a hypnotherapist and happiness coach. So it works. It works.
There are a lot of parallels going on here. I mean, first of all, Jodielynn sitting there thinking of, check boxes, right? Check. Yeah, that's me. Check. Yeah, that's me. Check. because she is a financial coach. She does live on a farm. She has a lot of those same things in common that you have.
Stubborn German.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I wasn't taught German. I only know Achtung and a few others.
Yeah, me either.
I'll give that to Bono from U2 is probably how I learned that one.
Yeah.
And as for me, I'm the one with the IT background, so I appreciate that part of it. So you're connecting on both sides here, which is really,
Oh,
really
I love
cool.
it. I already feel connected energetically, so I'm sure there's more to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And well, that's also the beauty of the way we do this, because when we have three, I've said this before, I don't know why, but there's something about three. When you have three people contributing to the conversation, the energy reaches peak levels that it doesn't reach with any other combination. So
I love that.
You've got the idea.
This is I don't know. We're keeping this, PG-13, but this is my first threesome on a podcast and anywhere else.
It's okay. We had a swinger last week, so
We did. Yeah.
Well, I'm not signing up for that, but I'll do another podcast with the two of you.
yeah.
And don't worry about the FCC. They have nothing to do with this. So it's not a big deal. So, all right. Well, that's quite a background. And it's also quite a turnaround in terms of what you ended up half deciding to do. I'm not quite sure how much of that was circumstance and how much of that was you directing it. I mean, the way you told the story, it almost sounded like it happened to you.
It did happen to me. And it happened. Well, I'll tell you this. It didn't happen to me. It happened for me. Right? Like, that's what I've learned. Have you read that Journey of Souls book? I love it. Like, it just gave me a whole new perspective of oh, that's my soul contract. Have you seen that meme? The guy sitting on a picnic table looking at a soul contract, and he turns the page. He's like, why? He turns the page, why? And then he turns the next page and he's like, oh, that's why. That's kind of like my story, right? I'm like, why is this happening? Why? Oh, now it all makes sense. Right? Yeah. So I finally figured out.
I mean, soul contracts, that's one of those things that's always been a little bit, I've sat on the fence. I'm literally still sitting on the fence on soul contracts.
Well, what
are they real?
People,
are they not real?
I don't know. I don't know if it's real or not. What I tell people is it's an enlightening way to look at things. So, you've heard Tony Robbins and other people say things happen for you, not to you. And it's a saying, and you can put it on a shirt, but you're not quite sure if you can embody it, especially when the crazy things are happening to you. When you can get curious and pull things in closer and look from that soul contract perspective of why might this be happening for me? Like, that's where you don't feel like it is being done to you. You're like, oh, let me get curious. Let me learn. Let me grow. So I tell people, I don't know if I believe it or not. I'm kind of on the fence too, but I love the way that it's opened my mind on embodiment of making the glass half full instead of half empty, so that I can see the opportunity.
Well, that's definitely the productive way to look at it, because I have to admit, I also look at it from the non-productive way, which is, what the hell was I thinking when I signed this thing in the first place?
For me, I totally believe in the soul contract, and something that I often say to myself and to the people that I coach is that I wouldn't have chosen poorly. Like, I'm too smart for that.
There you go.
Life, and I'm an old soul. So when anything like perceivably bad is happening and I can get curious about it, like you were saying, I always remind myself, like, this has to be a part of the journey and something like really miraculous, because I wouldn't have chosen poorly. Maybe I would have chosen some like crazy shit, because I'm adrenaline junkie in this lifetime, but not bad. Like, I wouldn't have chosen poorly. Like, it always works out in the end.
That's a great way to think about it. We're too
I like
smart
that.
to choose anything else.
Yeah. You have me half convinced to jump over onto that side of the fence. I mean, I'm not quite there. Maybe I'm 3/4 now.
Oh, wow. There was movement, though.
Yeah. I mean, there's one leg kind of dangling, but other than that,
Well, and if nothing else, right, as we grow younger, I always say growing younger.
Yeah.
I'm not, it gave me this whole different feeling about aging and death. Because I'm just like, oh, what's going to happen next? Right? We're just occupying this vessel for now. Isn't that much more exciting to know that, like, oh, we get to choose another vessel and another like life story and learn more and grow more? I like that works for me. That works for me to, like, get excited.
Yeah, it's almost like a detachment from the like emotion that we would go through. Like, okay, this is just my vessel, And for now, and this is just the story of this book. But it's not the only one. There's so much more, and there's so much more to come inside of this one, but it doesn't feel as bad as sometimes life can feel.
Yeah. And it makes, as my parents are growing older, right? It helps with that. And also I feel like my grandma was a very significant woman in my life. She's like the only person I would say that like just embodied unconditional love and generosity, like had nothing, but gave it all away anyway. Like just pure love. And I know I'm still connected to her. Just because she's left that vessel in that body doesn't mean she's not with me. So anyway, we digress.
No, I'm on board with that. That's actually one of the reasons why I like law of attraction when I first learned about it, because unlike traditional religious training, which I threw up when I was a 14-year-old, I could buy into it. I could sense how, yeah, this could actually work. This actually makes sense. It resonates deep inside. And once I started adopting it as my own belief system, I had very much the same feeling that you have, that, wow, okay, well, I think about all this stuff differently now. Now, you know, okay, death's going to come at some point, but okay, so what? Why am I even thinking about that? I've got all these years left to live here. Let's do that first, and I'll deal with that later on. And when I get there, okay, that'll be the next thing. It's not the end. That's the main thing. It's just not the end.
Right. And I don't know. I'm not omniscient. The two things that I do believe, right, though, is that, and then that's why I tell people is like, we're all light and love energy. Right? Every single part of us, whether you're talking about your skin or you're talking about what's inside you. And I think everybody can agree to that, right? Modern science has proven what ancient wisdom's known for thousands of years, right?
Yeah,
They've started.
Cool. That's happening, actually.
Isn't that neat? Isn't that neat? And so I say, like, I grew up Lutheran, right? Which is basically like the Catholic rebels. We got kicked out. So I believe that we all like are the people that have a faith, a spirituality, like of love and light. Different religions to me are just different ways, different languages, right? Like they're different ways to tell the story, and they tell the story a different way based upon where they grew up and the storytellers of that area. And if we can just appreciate everybody just tells the story a little different way, if we can get rid of fear and judgment of self and others, then heaven's here on earth. Right?
Like, well, that's the challenge where religion is concerned too, not just Christianity either. I mean, they're all chock full of it. So that's where the biggest challenge is. Yeah.
And then that's what we're taught. And then that's what everybody embodies. And then like, so part of my practice is I leverage, you know, I'm a hypnotherapist, and people are like, oh, I'm not sure about that. I'm like, you're already in a social trance. Like, you're already walking around hypnotized. Like, this is actually healthy.
Have you seen the last Taylor Swift concert, or, you know, like Sam Smith, I think it was, or I don't know, like, you're being programmed, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. So why don't you take back control of your narrative? I tell people, I'm just your subconscious safari guide. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to help you navigate.
Safari guide.
Yeah. So we go in and we find the key that you unknowingly locked your own self in your emotional prison. I can't tell you, here's the key and here's the thing. That's just like everybody else telling you what to do and what to think. I'm just a guide, and all the answers are in your subconscious. It's hard for you to access them on your own.
Yeah, that's really good.
I want to know more about that.
Like, yeah, it's cool. What do you want to know? Ask me.
Like, what's it like? What happens?
Well, it's different for every individual, right? Some people experience a deep state of trance, right? And some people don't at all. Like me, I don't go into a deep trance. I now I can get deeply relaxed, right? Like I said, I'm a recovering control freak. So
different levels of suggestibility is what you're driving at.
Yeah. The goal is it's not like hypnosis on a stage, like quack like a duck and bark like a dog. Like it's not that at all. Really, hypnosis in the way that I practice it is just a deeply guided meditation. So that you can relax your overthinking conscious mind. Like the neocortex is like your conscious mind, and it's only 5% in charge by the time you're 35, which is so wild, right? And then
what you can do with 5%, but still.
Yeah, no wonder we're tired all the time.
Yeah.
Then we get to the subconscious mind. The cerebellum is the host of your subconscious in the back here, and that's where the movie was always been recording. since birth.
Mhm.
Like everything's in there. The problem is, right?
Everything's in there. Oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Jody, your subconscious mind probably is still the age of 6 or 7.
Yeah, totally.
And it only knows what you say or what you think or the pictures you give it, right? It doesn't even know how old you are or what's going on outside. That's why I say don't say or think anything you don't want to be true, because your subconscious mind is listening. So what we do is we go back to the root. We find the experiences and the definition that little Jody and Walt had to make up to make sense of it, right?
That defines exactly what my childhood was like, trying to make sense out of this crazy world. Because quite honestly, this is a crazy world.
Yeah. Well, think about it this way. Okay. Have we cloned a human being? I'm not aware of it yet, but I don't watch the news. Have we cloned a human being yet?
Not officially, but who knows what's going on behind closed doors.
Okay. So not officially. Have we made a rocket ship?
Yeah.
Okay. So we made rocket ships. So we've made rocket ships, but we haven't cloned a human being. So what's more complicated, a human being or a rocket ship?
Depends on whether you're a rocket scientist.
Well, what's more complicated?
Human.
A human being, right? Did you guys have like human being 101, 201, 301, 401 in school, or did your parents teach you about the human being?
I missed that course.
Yeah.
No, right? So we just don't know. We're like the most complicated thing on this planet that we know of. We have no training, and we have a 6 to 7-year-old at the helm trying to drive our human being through life.
That's actually the most sensible description of life I've ever heard.
Yeah.
That really is quite accurate.
Well, good.
And
I like to be accurate.
It describes the results that you see very accurately as well. Look how many 6-year-olds there are around. It's incredible.
It is. It is. And so that's all we have to do is like the programming's outdated. It's still that little 6-year-old trying to make sense of stuff.
Yeah.
And so we figure out, okay, well, what little story did you tell yourself? How is that no longer applicable in today's world? And let's recode. So we say realize.
Isn't it easier to ask how is it actually applicable? Because it's going to be a shorter answer.
Is it true?
Yes.
Is the quickest answer. You just say no.
Yeah, that makes it a real quick conversation.
That is my favorite question.
Is it true?
Yeah.
And so how it happens to answer your question, we start with the realize step. So that's with your conscious and your subconscious. Then we do the recode. Well, what's the truth? Well, that isn't the truth. What do you want the truth to be, Jody? What do you want to manifest, Walt? That's the truth we tell ourselves because we know we're powerful creators and we put our minds to it.
But it isn't an interesting thing, though. We know that on one hand, but on the other hand, we're not convinced of it.
You know, you're not convinced of it until you start seeing the magic happen.
To some degree, yeah.
And like for me, I'm convinced.
Well, there are different levels is what I'm thinking. Some people, it takes one thing and they've got it. Other people, they want to see it 59 times before they're going to even start to believe it.
That's totally true. You know? And that's also because of their conditioning.
Sure.
It's trust. It's feeling enough. Like,
or lack thereof.
We've almost helped like probably 100 folks, and our teachers have helped thousands. And it usually comes down to this feeling, some rendition of I am not enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not, rich enough. I'm not successful, whatever it is, right? Something has told our little 6-year-old self that we're never enough. So we have to do all these things to try and prove it. But it is never enough until you're back to your authentic self.
And then the really odd part is we never really define who we're trying to prove it to.
That's right. They.
Who we're trying to prove it to are actually who we are.
Yeah.
I am just now, like, I kind of had an inkling, but every year, like, I'm like, oh, yes, this is familiar. This is me. Right? This is, oh, yes, that feels right. Who cares that everybody else might think that that's strange? My kiddos sometimes say, Mom, you're kind of weird. You're kind of cringe. And I say, well, I'd rather be weird than normal because normal is boring. And quite often, normal isn't healthy.
Very true. Yeah. In fact, I don't trust normal people. And I say that as a joke, but it's also really true. I really don't trust normal people.
Oh,
unless I see something that's quirky or unusual or individualistic is what it really amounts to. Unless I see something that is what you're calling the authentic you, I don't trust you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What does trust mean to Walt?
It means a lot more than it used to. Doing this podcast for 12 plus years, you experience interactions with so many different perspectives. So trust kind of broadens over time. But if you'd asked me that question 20 years ago, it would have been, let's put it this way, trust would have been something I could have put at the top of a piece of paper, and that's about as far as I would have gotten with it.
Yeah. Yeah. What don't you trust?
Today or then?
Now.
Now? I think that I don't trust myself as much as I want to trust myself. I think it's probably the best way I can answer that one, because I've gotten to the point now where I really recognize how all of my trust issues really have to do with my own relationship with me.
Absolutely.
So because of that, it really comes down to how much do I trust myself, and that I see in terms of gradation and degree rather than I trust myself or I don't trust myself.
That's brilliant though, because now, even though
Survival.
you haven't solved the code, but you're aware of it. So you're stepping outside of it. Right.
Yeah.
Most folks don't know yet, right, that everything that they don't trust or anything outside of them, a relationship, what happens at work, has nothing to do with the other things, the external relationship with others. It has everything to do with the relationship they have with themselves.
Which takes a long time to learn that one on your own.
It does. So that's what I'm saying. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're aware of the matrix. You're aware of the code.
My God, there's a matrix here. What's going on?
You haven't solved it yet, but you're not looking to solve it outside of yourself, because it has everything to do with the relationship you have within yourself. So that's huge.
And I looked for the longest time outside of myself. It took me a long time before I finally realized it wasn't out there.
Yeah. I still I'll catch myself still. It's a practice, right? Just like yoga, it's a practice, right? And if we're not growing, we're kind of stagnant or dying. So who wants that? So let's just keep growing, and it's okay. We'll always be learning something new.
Yeah. Well, more than that, it's also a reprogramming. I mean, you were talking earlier about how we program ourselves from age 6 or even before that. That reprogramming that we're asking ourselves to do now is basically rewriting all those neural pathways and trying to get the nervous system to believe it, to get the subconscious mind to believe it. That can take some time to do that. It takes some effort to do that. But when you're persistent, when you keep doing it over time, that's where that belief starts to kick in more. That's where those 59 times of manifestation start to actually show up. And you start to say, okay, I'm kind of getting this one now.
Absolutely. That's why we have, so I teach people how to do self-hypnosis, and then I make them like a tailored recording for like what they want. And so they listen to that every night. I like them to listen to it first thing in the morning when they wake up, to put attention on your intention. And then right before you go to sleep, to like get into the alpha theta kind of state, right? Where you're more suggestible. And then you have to take action. So that's where we do kind of like the coaching, the group work. So people take action to your point. Like, you got to convince your subconscious. Like, yes, you can listen to the recording, but you have to take action and embodiment. Like, oh yes, no, I was safe. Oh yes, I could trust myself. Right.
You also have to explore it beyond just the mental recognition of it. You have to explore it emotionally. You have to make it part of your gestalt experience rather than just something like, oh yeah, there it is, I see it. Because otherwise you don't really believe it. If you don't really believe it, you actually manifest the opposite.
Absolutely. That's what I tell people. Don't believe me. Experience, try it, test it out, see if it works. If it works, keep doing it. If it doesn't work, let's talk about it, because there's just a slight tailoring to your neural pathway makeup that we need to explore. So like Walt, next time you don't see somebody that's authentic and your spidey sense goes off and you're feeling I can't trust, then you lean in and you ask why.
Which is what I usually do, by the way.
Yeah. Which is perfect.
And then you learn beautifully more with being a podcast host, because you can literally ask the person, because you're seeing them right there on the screen. So you can ask them right there, why are you doing this?
What's wrong with you?
I love that. That's literally on the spot.
It is. Yeah. It's actually kind of cool.
Awesome. Put me on the spot. What do you want to know? Let's see.
I don't have the trust issue with you, so I could try. Let's see. What would I put you on the spot? Jodielynn, can you think of anything? What would you put Yvonne on the spot about?
Okay, you already talked about what is the most frequent thing that comes up, which is enough. What is I was going to ask, what is like the most bizarre or like the hardest?
Ooh, good.
Like, not topic, but you know what? I'm like the thought that you've had to like reprogram for somebody
For somebody else?
or yourself? Both. I want both.
Well,
A
for
good coach.
myself,
She demands more. I like that.
good. So I'll start with myself for now, because then it'll give my brain time to think about all the people I've helped and what's the most interesting to you and your audience. For myself, the first was not the most, it's not strange. It's actually quite common, but the most powerful helped me get out of my little safe pond, right? And jump into the ocean of possibility was letting go of the fear of the unknown.
Ooh.
Right? Like there's a Virginia Satir quote, and I always get it wrong. Something about people rather suffer the known over suffer the unknown. So they're more afraid of, it's the misery of the certainty over the misery of the uncertainty. So even though the uncertainty might be amazing, and you could be miserable as get out. That's why people stay in bad relationships. That's why people go back to abusers. That's why all these things, right? It's that known. So for me, it was letting go of the fear of the unknown. And now I'm working on, which is so cool, because that's why we called our company Limitless You, because I believe everybody's limitless and you just keep going. As I've been meditating and thinking about where do triggers still come up? Where do I experience challenges? Now it's letting go of, how do I want to say this? Almost like not victimization, but self-pity.
Oh.
Right? Like, oh, I got to do it all on my own because I'm a divorcee and a mother of 2 boys that don't listen to me and I have to repeat myself. Oh, I'm an entrepreneur now. And like, this is no joke compared to like a corporate job. Right. And I have to, like, but that doesn't serve me. Right. What I realized as a middle child, right, with a sister 10 years older and 6 years younger, and you didn't play with your kids or go to their games, you fed them and you gave them a house and all that, right? Like, it's me trying to get attention. But by having the self-pity party and trying to get others to feel sorry for me, it's not the attention that I want and I don't feel good, right? So I do it a lot less often than I used to, but I notice there's still some residue. So that's what I'm cleaning up.
Interesting.
Yeah. For others, gosh, there's been so many people. Ask your question again to make sure I pick the right one. What's the adjective? What am I looking for?
Unique or most difficult?
Most difficult. Probably most difficult, I would say, is people who've gone through sexual abuse.
Oh, yeah.
There's been all sorts of things, right? That some people have big T trauma, some people have little T trauma. And if you have little T trauma and you're like, oh, well, that's not me, I don't need that. I had little T trauma. I got grounded if I didn't get straight A's, and compared to my friend, and my parents didn't come to my ball games. That's about as bad as it got, kind of thing.
But trauma is incomparable. That's the thing.
It's not, but if you were like me, when I first met my partner, he's like, oh, most people have a rough childhood. I'm like, oh, my childhood was great. I grew up in a town of 2,300. There are cows and all the stuff. And he's like, you wouldn't have married the man you divorced if you didn't have something that you needed to like heal.
Ooh, wow. Great insight.
I'm like, oh.
Tough pill to swallow too.
That totally makes sense.
It
right?
totally makes sense.
But the reason I share this whole big T, little T trauma, because I thought that wasn't me. I'm fine. I'm normal. I'm like boring compared to everybody else. Right. So the reason I want to share that is because like, even though you asked for the most difficult and the one I shared, I don't want anybody that's listening to feel like if you haven't had sexual abuse, or if you haven't had physical abuse, or if you haven't been abandoned or adopted, or all the different things that I've worked through, right, with folks, that you don't have more opportunity to become limitless you. You do. We all do. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Soul contract or not, that's why we're here. Right. Yeah.
So to flip it around, it doesn't really matter how little or how much trauma you've experienced. You have had enough to do what you need to do. It's not like you're lacking.
No, nobody. So here's the thing. There's no such thing as perfection. Right. So nobody's had a perfect childhood. And as a child, I don't know
what that means, by the way. Seriously, I have no idea what a perfect childhood looks like.
Like, it depends on who's defining it, right?
I guess, yeah.
The thing you need as a child, Dr. Gabor Mate says, is attachment, which we know, right, to survive. But the thing that I didn't think about, that he made me think about, is authenticity. How many children, aside from like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like in kindergarten, it's cute and you let them draw a picture. And then after that, it's like, no, it doesn't matter. Like make money, be safe, get good grades, look like this, lose weight, you know, get on the sports team, whatever it is. Like we aren't a society that necessarily nurtures authenticity in children. So guess what? That's why we all think we're not enough.
Totally.
Because we're trying to be made to be something we're not.
It's an interesting thing because the word authentic or authenticity has become a buzzword. I mean, it's gotten to the point now where it has entered every single area of human communication. You can see it on the news. You see it in entertainment. You see it everywhere. It's kind of
like self-love.
Yeah, it really kind of is. And as a result, it's almost losing its flavor because it's being overused and over broadly applied and so forth. So it's almost losing what it originally was, which is to be authentic. But
how do you let's pick a new word, Walt? Like, because here's the thing, right? Because this is what I want, to your point earlier, if people aren't like somewhat unique, like I'm doing this out of my heart. Like, you know, I walked away from a successful career. I'm making a lot less money than I used to make. Like I'm barely, you know, like
for now.
You're so good. Right? For now, right? Abundance will come when it's supposed to come. If I stay pure to my intentions. But the reason I say that is because we need to find a word, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that aren't walking their talk and they're not sincere. And they're just out to get your money, right? Or to get fame or to get whatever. What message could we develop together? It's like our code word for like, no, actually, we really care. We're good people and we have good energy. So when other people say authenticity, we say what?
For me, I mean, the word that I used when I was growing up was real.
And the first word for me that came up was genuine.
That was my second one, actually. Yeah.
I like both of those.
Yeah.
I say sometimes, and that's when people are like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like your inner essence. Like people are like, essence, you smell what?
No.
No, this is not
it's your pheromones, damn it. It's your pheromones. But your inner spirit, your light, your soul, your uniqueness, right? I'd rather be unique. Right? Who said? Or maybe I said, I can't remember. We're all born unique. We're designed unique by whatever creator we believe in. We spend all our lives trying to become a copy. So I tell people, I'm like, I'd rather die unique than a copy, right? And who's smarter? You or your creator? Who's smarter?
The creator.
Right. So should we change the creator's design?
No.
So it's just, but now I know that it makes so much sense. But for, you know, however many years, 40 years, I was also asleep. It didn't make any sense to me. I never even thought about thoughts like this.
And I actually have a slightly different take on it because I don't really believe in a single creator. I believe that creation is done by all of us, meaning not just humans, but by all living entities. I believe that's what the creation is. And so when I try to answer the question that you just posed, which is, okay, who's smarter, me or my creator? The answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh gosh, we could get in a loop there. A thought loop. Like
well, that's the way that's why I get a little bit confused whenever people talk about a single God, because to me, that's a confusing concept. I understand why it's very simple for other people, but for me, when I look at the way I believe, I say to myself, that doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about?
Well, I just try and use it generically. That's why I say creator. Like it could be a creator collective. It could be a creator energy. It could be I don't use God or Allah or Buddha or a single entity. So it's kind of like, okay, I need another vocabulary lesson, Walt. What instead of creator is a universally understood, digested word or set of words we could use when we're talking about how we came into what was the grand design?
If I apply universally accepted, then I have to go back to God. But just because it's universally accepted doesn't mean that I think it makes sense.
what would resonate with you?
I honestly, the easiest way that I think about it for myself is me, because I am part of that collective whole of creativity.
Mhm.
And
So
I
what
love the way
about
that
when you're
Abraham
not
Hicks
being you?
describes this one. Abraham Hicks describes it really nicely. If you want to understand universality, look at the individual. The individual, it's the same idea as what's the branch of mathematics that identifies patterns within patterns? I can't think what that's called. It'll come to me. But we see this a lot in nature. I mean, the shape of the leaf is the shape of the tree. Different patterns show up at different levels of either zooming in microscopically or zooming out macroscopically. We see the same pattern within pattern within pattern. And the same thing is true for the universe. If you want to understand the universe, you can look at the individual. If you want to understand the individual, you can look at the cell level. It's going to be true at all different levels. So in order to make it really simple for myself, I just think about me. Not
Who's the
that
designer
I'm not
of
thinking
me?
about egotistically. I'm just part. I'm one piece of this overall whole, and the whole is what's in me is representative of what's in that whole. So if I want to understand the whole, just understand me.
Yeah, I like that. How do you describe your designer of me?
Me.
Me by me.
Yeah, me,
That's
us, we. I mean,
It's so
I apply a
shocking that
variety
you
of
don't
different
believe
things.
in like soul contracts or like that side of things, because like you designed it, you designed your life.
I just the only problem I have with the soul contract idea is the idea that I set myself up in advance to do something that I wasn't going to enjoy. That's the part that I have trouble understanding. And the reason I have trouble understanding that is I have now come to the understanding and realization that A, we have great value in going through troubled times, because troubled times is where we do our most learning. But B, the troubled times don't have to be devastating for us to learn.
Right.
So I mean, you were talking earlier, Jodielynn, about how you would not design something for yourself, a lifetime for yourself, that wouldn't be from your own perspective in your own best interest, which I love the argument, by the way. I think it's a great point of view to have. For me, I would take that one step further. I would not set myself up to go through massive trauma if I believed I could learn the same thing through lesser trauma.
But let's go on a rabbit hole, guys.
Like, we never do that down here. I mean,
Never.
we're never going down rabbit holes on this show.
Never.
No.
We were talking at the beginning about how trauma, little t, big T, doesn't really, it's not that it doesn't matter. I don't want to say that, but I don't know what other language to use. So just forgive me for saying it this way. We'll find a sexier way to say it. That it's more in the eye of the beholder, or like the individual that's going through it, because I could go through something that's really rough and be like, cool, whatever, cakewalk, been through it, done there, done that, whatever. And someone else could go through that. Like me and my brother are actually a really good example of this. I've had a lot of big T trauma in my life, throughout my life. And I mean, I'm grateful for all of it. I've learned from all of it. He had a very easy life in comparison. Like he never really went through anything he tried. It was just like, boom, let's go straight to the top. Like he's just been that guy. And that really bothered me for a long time in my life, but I'm over it now. Like I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. That wasn't my journey. But now he's going through it and he doesn't have any skills. And although the things that he's going through, I would be like, cakewalk, let's do it. Like that's easy. Him, I can see how much he's struggling because he doesn't have the same past as me. So when I look at trauma in general, and like the severity of it being in my own trauma experiences, what I have learned is that like the entire hue of the rainbow exists all at once during the trauma. So the dark is there, and at the same moment, the light is too. So the way that I am perceiving it inside of that moment, depending on my headspace, maybe what I've learned, what I've been through, whatever, it could be like really, really dark, or it could be dark and then all of a sudden light, but eventually that light shows up. So when I look at like the traumatic things that I've been through and in terms of like soul contract, my soul didn't have an attachment. Like I think about like the years and years and years, well, not years, the persons, I don't know, like the lifetimes, that's what I'm looking for. The many lifetimes that I've walked this earth, because I know that I'm an old soul. I don't know how many I've had. Let's just say lots. But if my soul is sitting in that chair writing that contract, it's from that perspective of those thousands of lifetimes that I've been here. So the I don't know, the wisdom of all of that trauma, it's like, oh yeah, cakewalk. Just like me looking at my brother, right? In this lifetime. That's easy. That's easy. Yeah, let's go. I'm not sure if that's the right way, but
well, the thing is, I think you're really touching on something that's super important. It's never about the experience. To your point, people can experience, you and I, we're all sitting here in the same space, right? Well, virtually, but even if we were sitting right next to each other, we could experience things very differently. So it's never the experience outside of you that impacts you. It's the meaning you give it.
True.
Right. And so for you, like you said, like it depends on kind of what frame of mind you're in. And that's going to influence what kind of meaning you give it, which is back to kind of the coding in your subconscious. That's going to shape what kind of meaning. That's why your brother's meaning is different than yours. Right.
That's the part of the soul contract idea that I can actually buy into. That part of the idea makes sense to me because that's the soul saying, this is how much I feel like I need in order to experience, in order to get to the place I want to be. So in that sense, that fits in with what you were talking about, Yvonne, about how I am living out exactly what I need to live out, and it's all playing out the way I needed it to play out, and it's all working out to my best interest.
It helps life flow a lot better. So one of my former colleagues, I want to do what she's doing. She's studying biomimicry. And I always say,
biomimicry.
Yeah. So basically they're studying, right? Nature, animals, plants, everything. To your point earlier, Walt, of like the trees, the leaf, the leaves, the cell, all the things, right? Like if you look at
fractals, that's what those are called. It took me a while for that word to come out. Those are fractals.
Back.
Yes.
They're called sea stars, but we call them starfish. Like they can regenerate. There's so much that we can learn from nature. And so I always say it's kind of like, I love this one artist. She's not super popular, but I found her on YouTube. Alexia Chellin. Could be Chillun. I'm not sure. But she has this song about the river, right? And flowing like the river. And it doesn't hang on to the rocks or the reeds, right? It just flows to where it's supposed to go. And so that's why I keep reminding myself, I'm like, when you hang on to, say you're in a river and it's got a really good current and you hang on to a rock or a reed, like, how's that going to feel hanging on to that with the river still flowing? Not so great.
Yeah.
Kind of a rough ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if we learn to surrender and let go, I think it's just a beautiful analogy. Like, let life take its course and go where we're supposed to go. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to flow like a river. I'm not going to repeat myself. I'm not going to get upset. I'm just going to keep flowing with ease. So learning to, there's so much. We are a part of nature, but we think that we're smarter than that, but we're actually getting dumber than it. So we need to go back to nature, right? And learn. And then I think we'll have a better planet to share.
I've often enjoyed the river analogy. Abraham Hicks again. I'll use that one to dramatic effect to illustrate the difference between trying to go upstream or trying to go downstream. Because all the stuff that you want is downstream and you think that it's all upstream. So that's why you're swimming upstream.
Oh my God, that's a beautiful analogy.
Yeah. And all you have to really do is just let go and let the boat turn around. It'll take you right down to where you want to go.
Oh, right. Or I think for the longest time, I wasn't even in the right stream, you know? I don't know. I got to
in the stream in the first place.
I got to think about like what an analogy. How do I get from the wrong stream to the right stream? But yeah, I was not only swimming upstream, the wrong body of water.
Well, if we take what Jodielynn was saying, though, like Jodielynn was saying earlier, she would never actually design a lifetime for herself that wasn't to her own highest and best good. So the question becomes, how do you know you were in the wrong stream?
It was the exact right one.
Because if you're seeking something and you think it's going to make you happy, but it never does.
Which may be the learning experience.
Yeah. Like people sometimes also think like, why is she asking me what I felt in my body when I read that? So I'll ask people to like, I love this quote from Voltaire. What is it? Oh, Yvonne, nature, love is nature's canvas that's embroidered by by imagination.
Oh yeah. Nice.
No, love is a canvas provided by nature, embroidered by your imagination.
Yeah.
And because it summarizes like what we do at Limitless You so well, right? And I ask people, what does that mean to you? And what do you feel in your body? And most of the time, they don't feel anything. And that's normal because we've been conditioned to not feel our body.
Yeah, we're conditioned to think.
Yeah. And then everything's up here. But
Right.
like the mind, body, spirit needs to be reconnected. And your body doesn't speak English or Spanish or German, but it does speak emotions, right? And sensations. And that will tell us, to your point of how do you know if you're in the wrong stream or not? Like you will have disease and potentially disease if you stay in disease for long enough. Because it's low grade inflammation, that's, the cause of 70 to 80 to probably 100% of all diseases, including cancers.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how you know, like if you're in disease, if you feel like it's never enough, right? Then you're hanging on to a rock or a reed, or you're in the wrong stream. It's not keep swimming upstream.
Or maybe it's you put yourself into the wrong stream. Now you understand that it is the wrong stream. That's why you put yourself there. What stream do you want to go to instead?
Yeah. Yeah. So now I'm in the right stream. I occasionally find myself still trying to swim upstream. And that's when I have to catch myself and meditate and flow again.
I have to remind myself that I don't have to figure out which direction the current is going. I find myself often trying to do that, trying to figure out where the current is. And I usually end up swimming into it as a result.
Yeah. Surrender is not an easy thing.
It takes practice. It takes a lot of practice. Yeah.
It's so amazing though. Every time, and Jody, this probably resonates with you and kind of what you do. It's like when the manifesting works or when the letting go and surrendering works, I'm like, well, shit, that was a lot easier. Why didn't I just do that to begin with?
Totally.
And so you just have to keep doing it and experiencing the better, flowing way. Right. And then eventually, you're like, oh, I'm thinking about hanging on, but no, I'm not going to hang on. I'm just going to flow and we'll see where it goes.
And part of it is that it is easy and part of it is that it isn't. And the reason I say that is I think a lot about the analogy of the painter who was sued because he charged the person who bought his painting this massive amount of money for the painting. And after the purchaser had it for a while, he decided that he'd paid too much, so he took him to court. And when he took him to court, he said, well, how do you justify, how much time did it take you to make the painting? And the painter said, it took me about a week. Okay, how many hours was that? Well, it was about 100 hours. Okay, so basically you were charging me on the order of $10,000 an hour to do this painting. How do you justify that? And the painter replied, I wasn't charging you $10,000 an hour. I was charging you for the lifetime it took me to learn how to do the painting.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. I'm trying to shift away too from because I'm not good with asking for money. Like that is hard. Like I avoided sales for my whole life, but as
most people, by the way,
as an entrepreneur, that doesn't work very well. Like there aren't teams and huge swaths of people to do that. As I am getting more comfortable with it, what I'm learning is it's like what your value you're giving. It's not by the hour anymore. It's like, what value am I giving you? Right? What value did that painter give? That guy couldn't have done that himself. Right. And so like you're saying, it's not like, well, what's the value to you? This is what I think the value is based upon what, I've been able to demand from the market. But what's the value? It has nothing to do with hourly, right? It goes back to the experience.
Well, it also goes back to something you said earlier. And you asked me to challenge you on something. So now I've got something I can challenge you on.
Shoot.
Okay. So you made a point about people who are only concerned about money. When we talk about those people, what we're referring to is the fact that they seem to be more interested in setting the price that gets themselves the maximum number of dollars without any consideration for the person they're interacting with, that they're providing this service or product or whatever it is that they're providing. And yet from another point of view, that same person is doing exactly what we're talking about here. That person is saying, here's the value of what I'm doing. Here's the value of what I'm offering. So from that person's perspective, what they're actually doing is of great benefit to the person that they're helping. But from the perspective of someone outside of that arrangement, they're saying, well, that person's taking advantage of it. So the question now becomes, well, whose perspective are we talking about?
Depends. It's everybody's perspective is relevant to any kind of relationship or an exchange. And so communication becomes important. Now, before I go further, what you said is very interesting. I want to go back. I don't think that if somebody wants to put value on something, that they don't care about the other person or all they care about is money.
Okay.
I think we need to go to intentions first and motivation.
Okay.
Right? I'm trying to let go of any judgment in this whole situation, right? Because judgment breeds nothing but bad
Not
karma.
easy to do, by the way.
Yeah, no, I always catch myself. If I'm judging somebody else or judging others. Like even as you told me about that court case, I'm like, and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, you're judging. Stop judging. Like you weren't there. You don't know these people's perspectives. So clean that out, right? Wipe that off. But I think everything comes to, in this kind of conversation, to intention. So I don't know what these two individuals in this hypothetical case, their intentions were, right? Or their reasoning. So say for the guy that was selling it for a lot of money, you know, does he have a fear? Does he feel like he needs that money in order to survive? Like, what are his motivations and what are his intentions? Right? Or is he like, I believe in abundance and I believe this is money is an exchange of energy. And I've put a lifetime of energy into that. And I'd rather keep it than give it to you for anything less than what I believe the energy is valued at.
This is a really interesting take on another popular topic these days, KYC, know your customer.
Oh, I don't even know. I was like, KYC, is that Kentucky Fried Chicken's competitor? I'm not sure.
Know your customer. It's the idea that when you're in business, the best way to be in business is to know who you're doing business with. Yeah. And that's how you can be, going back to the other buzzword, you can be more authentic in the way that you do your business.
Yeah. For what, before I left my company, what I wanted to do more of, but there just wasn't, they wanted people with like MBAs and stuff in that. I'm like, well, no, this is just for my heart, but it's all about user experience and customer value. Right. So if you really need to know who you're talking to and what they value in order to tailor the experience or the product or the service. Right. And so I can't operate in any other way because I'm anti-sales, because I feel like they think all I care about is their money. And then that, you know, I don't want them to think that. So for me, it is all about like the human being and the connection. I wish that, and we can manifest together, that would attract more abundance and more trends, right? Wish more people operated from that mindset of infinite abundance and trust and love and connection. So we all could flow more easily.
Yeah, I like that, and I agree with you about intention. I that's actually the way I look at it as well. When I look at certain people, I don't necessarily judge them in terms of, you know, well, how are they treating other person where money is concerned, but I do think about it, and there's a certain judgment that's involved in this, in whether or not I feel like that person is more interested in something that is going to be of what I perceive to be of true value to that other person, or if they're just simply trying to push something onto them that's really not going to be helpful to them. Yeah. To me, that's the bigger issue, whether or not, regardless of what the price is, the price tag could be $1, but if it's $1 of trash, it's still trash. I don't care what the price tag is. It doesn't make any difference to me.
Yeah. I guess I have I'm in the human being business, right? So for me, it's all about the human being. And like, I grew up with a lot of judgment, and that was one of the first things that I had to let go of. The trick I have is like looking at everybody first with compassion and curiosity. So it's easy to remember. Einstein said equals MC squared, right? Everybody knows that. My definition is you're the energy you want in your life equals mindful thinking raised to the power of compassion and curiosity.
Ooh, I like that.
So that's how you can remember it. So think about it. Like, we all agreed we're only little 6 or 7-year-olds in our heads, right? So even if somebody's like not a very nice person or doing something that you're not like, I'm like, okay, let me look at that person as a 6 or 7-year-old. They weren't born this way. Why might they be doing that? Then I start with compassion. I see you as a young child, and then I lean into curiosity, because what I learned the hard way is judgment only pushes people away. It doesn't make you right. I had a big right monster on my shoulder for a long time, and I was always right. No kidding, but maybe. But so it never helps you convey what you want to convey to be right about in the first place by judging somebody. The best way is to bring them close, understand their perspective, in hopes they might understand yours, in hopes that you could enrich and they can enrich you. So the energy you want equals mindful thinking raised to the power of compassion and curiosity. That's the ingredient to get rid of judgment in your life. Every single time it works.
Inversely, you're reminding me of the title of the autobiography by Charles Barkley, the NBA basketball player. His book is entitled, I Could Be Wrong, but I Doubt It.
That was the old me. I said, I'm right, and you better know it. Like, that was the old Yvonne. So that's been a big transformation for me, a huge one.
And actually, what made the difference for me in terms of the whole judgment question was realizing that judging is really about me trying to impose my belief about somebody onto somebody else, as opposed to me deciding what is good for me and what's not good for me. It's the difference between selecting and casting aspersion. Yeah. Selecting, you still have to decide what you like and what you don't like. It's just that you don't have to apply judgment in order to do that. Judgment is where you're also casting aspersion and saying, well, not only do I not like that, but I want to make sure you don't like it either.
Yeah. And then you're giving away so much energy.
Oh, yeah. Tons.
Right? So I talk a lot to my tribe about attract, not chase. Put the energy into what you want, not what you don't want.
Right.
So many years, like one of my bosses, I worked for the CIO, and he's like, you're really good at looking out 20 different paths, 20 steps to make sure that nobody steps into a pothole. But he's like, then all your energy's going there. He's like, I want your energy into trying something different. And if you stub your knee or stub your toe or scrape your knee, that's okay. But I didn't know that because I got grounded for not being perfect. Right. And so that was my conditioning. So it's just another example of like, it's good that that all happened. To Jody's point, like I designed it. It all makes sense now. So it's good. It's good. We're on a journey.
Have you noticed, like I have, that once again, we're 1 hour into a conversation that we want to go for 2?
Yeah, absolutely. I just
looked at it again
and thought, wow, it's over already.
It's not possible, but that's the way it goes when it's a good conversation. So we do have a couple things we need to do. We have some housekeeping we do at the end of every show. First and foremost, this is really important for someone who does want to work with you, who wants to explore their limitless life opportunities. How do they find you?
Yeah, just go to unlocklimitlessyou.com. Right. And if you want to set up a call, you just unlocklimitlessyou.com/call. Right. If you're not quite sure, but you're like, I want to explore this a little bit further. If you go to unlocklimitlessyou.com/resources, there are so many free things that I want to give people. Because again, I'm doing this out of my heart, not because of the bank account. So I'm giving you as much value as I can without talking to you. And I hope I get to talk to you. But if you take a quiz, super simple, unlocklimitlessyou.com/quiz, it'll just help you start seeing, how am I showing up? Am I giving away my energy? Am I focusing on what I don't want instead of what I do want? Do I actually know who I am and I am relating to myself? And there's a bunch of other things, but I would say those would be the 2 best places.
Excellent. And we'll include a link to the website too in the show notes to make it easy for people, because we do like to make things easy for people.
Yeah, it's about the user experience and value, right?
That's right. Absolutely. Make it as easy as we can. People are going to make it tough on themselves. That's their business. I'm not going to help. That's right.
We're not contributing to that.
Not going to contribute to that. No. So that's the first thing we need to do. Second thing we need to do is something that Jodielynn in particular is really, really good at. All my co-hosts are really good at, but Jodielynn's like the cream of the crop. And that is taking what we've talked about and figuring out how to tie it all together into one little bow to kind of make the whole thing make sense. And you'll hear in a moment why she's so good at that. But Jodielynn, I know you've been thinking about it. So what's the tie together today?
Oh my gosh. Well, first, we're all a bunch of 6-year-olds. Thank you for the reminder of not only compassion for the outer world, but compassion for ourselves as we figure it out. And I think our conversation today is just this beautiful reminder of the work that you're trying to bring to the world. That is, the exploration of oneself is truly the key to unlock the limitless potential that we have in front of us. So thank you for that reminder.
You're welcome. And Walt, she is good.
She's really good. She's really good. Yeah. I always look forward to it myself because, I mean, as the host, obviously I have a particular perspective and I'm kind of, driving the conversation and so forth. I can't really see what's happening because I'm experiencing it from my perspective. I hear it from her perspective and I think, whoa, okay, so that's what we did. That's pretty darn cool.
Well, and that's such a beautiful reminder and analogy to like, that's just how we are in life, right? We're so caught up in our head and we think it's all about us, but nobody's thinking about us as much as we're thinking about us, and not in the same way.
That took me a while to learn that one, by the way.
I know, right? So whether you work with me and Limitless You, or just go ask a good friend that has some good perspective, get the truth. And remember, you might not know what it is if you don't look a little closer.
Love it. That's great. Well, all this brings me to the final thing that we have to do before we're done today. This is something I've done for the last few years, and it goes directly into what you talked about when you were telling people about your website and your resources page and so forth. And you create all this stuff, not for the money, but because you're doing it the goodness of your heart. You're giving from your heart. And that's the part that I noticed. There are so many people, most of them are guests on these programs, but there's so many people who are out there giving from the heart, giving what's important based on their own experience that they've gone through. They went through that dark night of the soul. They came out the other end and they had wonderful experiences that taught them all kinds of stuff. And they want the world to know about it because everybody needs to know how important this stuff really is. And so they're putting all this content out like you did there. You come onto this podcast, you go onto other podcasts. I'm sure you do blog posts, you do social media posts. And that's where I recognized that there was something missing. I said, we don't get credit for that. Well, that's not good. We got to get credit for that. So Yvonne, on behalf of those people you've never met, never seen, never will meet, never will see, who you've been helping in ways you didn't even know about, on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing.
Aww, that makes my heart smile. I love that. Yeah. I love that. We have to celebrate these things and celebrate each other.
Yeah. Well, I celebrate that you came onto the program and talked to us today. This has been fun.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I got to meet you guys. I hope we get to do it again. This was fun.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We'll have you back. I love
it. We'll do laughing yoga next time.
We'll open the show.
I think we actually did. We didn't intend to, but we went right into laughter after that. So pretty close,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So thank you very much. And thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.